Bismillah. He is the benevolent, the giving and merciful. He's so indescribable. His love is irreversible, word undeniable, lyrically untriable, ultimately viable, eternally supplyable, maybe inconceivable, but beautifully believable. The true reality, there's no similarity. Gave us more than charity, peace and prosperity. Why did we never care to see it? We can keep His clarity. The Almighty, the Father metaphorically, but in the history they tried to make His word a mystery. Gave him mortality, anthropomorphic fallacy. Say He's got a seed, they can never bring the proof to me. And honestly, the greatest, the best, beyond time and space, beyond matter and flesh. Yes, He's uncomparable, yet His parables infinitely listed pictures couldn't give a good description. The pictures missing, but He created all the living in every dimension, and He inspired what I'm giving, the giver of wisdom, devoid of any needs. Anything that He wants, all He has to say is be, cause He's the untouchable, infinitely trustable, His plan unstoppable, power untoppable, the reliable, undeniable, greater than the physical, master of the mystical, the master of the worlds, the fashion.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
And Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Kareem.
We so excited, brothers and sisters. I have my co-host back in the studio with me today.
Yes.
Praises be to Allah. She's no longer in that undisclosed location.
That's right.
But praises be to Allah. Let us open in prayer. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Allahu Akbar. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
Welcome to season 2 of the 99 attributes of Allah in 30 days. And today we are on what?
Day 12.
12.
We gotta figure out how we're gonna put our fingers. We're on day 12.
Where we take 3 to 4 attributes and we go into their meaning and their usage in our environment.
You know, sisters, Allah says in the Holy Quran, there is no God except He. To Him are the most beautiful names.
Believers, these beautiful names are the 99 attributes found in Islam. The 99 attributes or the characteristics of Allah, God, reflect the noblest of qualities and abilities. They represent the perfect idea for human beings to inspire to.
And they also, brothers and sisters, you know, in Islamic tradition, it said we derive our manners from the attributes of Allah. Therefore, our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is reported to have said, cultivate within yourselves the attributes of Allah.
And our minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, tweeted, when you have an attribute of God, you should strive for degrees in excellence in that attribute.
You know, beloved sisters, you know, sister, you know, so we got 2 sisters on the stage tonight,
That's
right
right.
on the set tonight. But, you know, Sister Sadia, Kareem,
Yes, sir.
you know, the beautiful thing about this is discovering, you know, who we are. There's a word that we use called sadiq, and it means to be true to yourself. It is one of the beautiful names of Allah. It comes from, we're most familiar with the word sadiq or sadiqa, right? It means truth, but it means to verify that truth. And it means to be true to yourself. So it's about this manifestation of Allah's attributes. And the minister gave us a clip that is so beautiful that we've been viewing for the last couple of days. Talk to us about that.
So the minister goes into the manifest attributes of Allah. Master Fard Muhammad, he came in the person of a man. And so if Master Fard Muhammad is God and he is a man and he manifests the attributes of Allah, then he came to seek and save us, but also to make us into himself, which means that we also can manifest those qualities.
Absolutely. Praises be to Allah. So we want to show you this clip, brothers and sisters, and we'll be right back.
As we have been sharing with you in these broadcasts of the time and what must be done, the representation of the great Mahdi or long looked for guide of the Muslim world, Master Farad Muhammad, who is the master of the wheel, and the great Jesus the Christ. The Christ and the Mahdi are one and the same. For Christ means one anointed with power to crush the wicked. And the Mahdi is one also anointed to set justice in the earth and to set down every tyrant. And we are saying that in our humble judgment, he, the Mahdi, the Christ, is so magnificent. There has never been a manifestation of God like him. And when the Quran says in the 112th surah or chapter, and there is none like him, never has there been one like him who is the master of that great mother plane or wheel. He is the manifestation of all of the 99 attributes of Allah plus a few more, as Allah is always coupling his attributes in this manner. He's mighty, but he's wise. He's strong and powerful, but he's the forgiving and the merciful. He is the avenger and the destroyer, but his power is always balanced with his oft returning to mercy and his forgiveness. He's always balanced. We would have to do something so terrible that would allow him to unleash the fullness of the power that he has.
Praises be
Be
to
to
Allah.
Allah. Praises be to Allah. Alhamdulillah. So, Sister Dear, who do we have on the set with us today?
This is my little big sister, Sister Lynesia Muhammad. I love her so much. You don't even understand how much I love her. So she is one of the students in the ministry class, and we soldier side by side together in the ministry class. She's also our student Lieutenant Vanguard captain, right? And so she's a leader. She's a servant. She's an entrepreneur. So she has her own business. And in that, a lot entails in just creating your own business. So with her, she's a creative. But the most important thing is she loves Allah and she gives everything that she has to serve him. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our beautiful sister, Sister Lynesia Muhammad.
Praise be to Allah. Walaikum salam. Thank you so much for the introduction. So she already told you all about me, so we're going to get right into it.
Okay.
All right. So studying the attributes of Allah is one of my favorite things to study, because not only do we get to learn about Allah through his names, but we also get to learn about ourselves, because we are made in the likeness of Allah. So with that being said, let's get into these attributes that I've been assigned with. The first one is al-Qabid, which means the withholder. And so we're going to define all words so that way we can get a real understanding beneath the surface level. So withhold is to hold back from action, to refrain from granting, giving, or allowing, or to keep in custody. And in the Holy Quran, Surah 2, verse 2, it says, whatever Allah grants to people of mercy, none can withhold it. And whatever he withholds, none can release it. None can release it thereafter. And he is the exalted in might, the wise. So this verse shows that Allah is the withholder, meaning whatever he is withholding, whatever he is blessing, whatever chastisement, access, or some relief that we may be looking for, none can give it to you outside of Allah. But it also bears witness that whatever he gives to us, no one can withhold it except Allah. So how do we use this in our lives? Well, knowing that Allah withholds certain things in our life should make it easier for us to be patient for those things, right? So if I can rise above emotion and know that and see that the reason I don't have a car or the reason I don't have something that I've been wanting in my life right now is not because the universe is against me or my family is against me, my boss is against me, but it's simply because it's just not my time right now and Allah is withholding it from me. So from this, not only can I learn to have more patience, but knowing this about Allah will make me look into myself and see why is it that I don't have these things. So now we're getting into personal development and self-improvement. What is it that I'm not ready for, right?
Mm.
And then two, the Holy Quran says sometimes we want a thing that is not good for us. Sometimes we don't want something that is good for us. So just knowing this attribute of Allah will help us to grow into knowing more about ourselves as it pertains to personal development and self-improvement.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So also another verse that I found that related to this attribute, al-Kabid, the withholder, is one of my favorite verses in the Quran. Out of Surah 87, it's actually a few verses. So verses 1-3. Glorify the name of thy Lord, the Most High, who creates, then makes complete, who measures and then guides. So in this, we see that attribute, the withholder, because no one is born with a step-by-step playbook to how our lives are going to turn out. No one knows what the future holds but Allah. And the Holy Quran says our term has already been fixed. So our lives are already mapped out. So he withholds certain levels of our lives and developments, releasing little by little, allowing us to progress step by step and putting us through the fire, putting us through those trials until we are made into God's. So that's another aspect that I saw him being the withholder in the Holy Quran. So now we're going to go on to al-Basit, the extender. And to extend means to stretch out to the fullest length, to exert to full capacity, to increase the scope, meaning, or application of, and to advance or prolong. And of course, I'm going to go into the Holy Quran. So Surah 51, verse 47, it says, and the heaven reconstructed with strength, and indeed we are its expander. So here we see Allah being described as the extender as it refers to the hereafter. He constructs it with strength and he's expanding it, stretching it out to its fullest. Now, how do we apply this to our lives? Well, if the hereafter in this verse is spoken so highly of, then we, entrants of the hereafter, must be deserving of a reward such as the hereafter. Therefore, if the hereafter is being stretched out to expand, we also must be putting ourselves in the position to be stretched out and expanded by Allah. And two, whenever you stretch, you're increasing a range of motion. You're loosening those joints, loosening those muscles, so that way, your movements are not restricted. So whenever we stretch ourselves mentally and spiritually, exerting ourselves to the fullest capacity of what it is to be a God, we're loosening those stiff muscles, that become restricted at the time of no motion in our lives. So I thought that this was a great verse to show that attribute of Allah. And also another quote from the minister. He says, if you want perfection in anything that you attempt to do, you must recognize the Lord's ability to perfect you. But you have a responsibility, which is to submit yourself to the Lord, that he might nurture you and make you attain stage after stage until you reach your eventual perfection. And I saw this relating to the expanding, because we have the full capacity to expand. But as the minister said, it's a nurturing process. So praise be to Allah. Now, this was my favorite attribute, al-Kafid, okay, the reducer and the abaser. And I'm gonna say that this is like a bonus one, because as I was looking for reference points, I found this verse and it's kind of like a 2-for-1 special. So let's get into it. So reduce is to diminish in size, amount, extent, or number, to make shorter. And then an abaser is to lower in rank. So the Holy Quran, Surah 95, verses 4-6 says, certainly we created man in the best make. Then we render him the lowest of the low, except those who believe and do good. So theirs is a reward never to be cut off. And I went into the footnotes to kind of further get a understanding of these verses. And the best make is referring to our capability for advancement. And in this, we see al-basit, the extender, because like stated before, we're stretching out. So it's talking about capacity, it's talking about potential. So we have the potential to reach full capacity to advance beyond the level of this world. And then when you go into the next verse, you see the attribute al-kafi is demonstrated. It says that the man will be rendered to the lowest of the low. And then in the last verse in this trilogy, it says, except those who believe and do good. So here we see al-basit again, talking about that potential and the capacity that we all have. So how, and one of my questions that I, just ask myself, trying to get deeper and deeper into the surahs and the attributes, is how does a man go from being created in the best make, and then one verse later, he's mentioned as being the lowest of the low. So whenever we aren't working towards improvement or turning potential into, something we could use, some greatness that's we can use in our lives, there's no movement. And the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that the first law of motion in the universe, when the first law of the universe is motion. So whenever there's no movement in our lives, there is no life. So that is how we get from, the potential to be the greatest of the great to being the lowest of the low, when there's no movement or when that potential is not being used appropriately. So to avoid this faith, it's important that we stay in the mindset of a student, constantly learning, constantly looking for ways to improve our lives, because as the Holy Quran says, we are created in the best make. So it's up to us to explore the potential that we all have, and reflect that which we are created from. Yes, sir. And yes, ma'am. So, and again, whenever we study these beautiful names of Allah, we can gain a deeper understanding of the surface of who it is we say we believe in, which is Allah in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. And studying his names also gives us an understanding of ourselves, because we are made unto the likeness of Allah.
Praises be to Allah. Praises be to Allah. Excellent, my dear sisters. So just go back over your three attributes again. What are your three attributes?
So we have al-kabid, the withholder. We have al-basit, the extender. And then we have al-kafid, which is the reducer.
Praises be to Allah. And I wanted her to do that because, when you raised up the verse, Surah 87, 1-3, and you find that also in the study guides.
Yes, sir.
Right. And so the minister is talking about that the act of creation, everything is in verse 2 and 3. Right. And then, but when you look at it, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, it says, glorify the name of your Lord, the Most High. Right. Who creates, then makes complete, and who measures, then guides. I find it interesting that he puts glorify the name of your Lord first. Right. So when Brother Imam Sultan was here, when you talk about the Rahman, right, or Maliki Yom Middin, the word deen means to pay a debt. Right. And when you look at this, it shows that we are in debt because we didn't create ourselves.
Right.
So Allah he is the withholder. So in the study guide that's connected with this, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan said that Allah gives us three things to keep that God force in check. Right. So we don't get all outside of yourself. Oh, well, I am, how somebody says, I'm God and can't pay your bills.
Right.
Right. Right. He said it's fear, religion, and delayed reward gratification. Right. So when you put that verse up, that just made me like, oh, wow, that is so profound, because delayed reward gratification. Right. So talk to us about that and why you chose that particular verse.
Well, at first I wanted to find something that said he is the withholder, like it was textbook, it was clear. But I couldn't find it, but as I was looking for it, I was like, well, let me find something that I am, comfortable with. As like I said, this is one of my favorite verses, and I've done a lot of talks and things on it, and use that verse and find how he is the withholder. And this was the first one that came to mind because, like I said, it's all laid out for you. He created us, and then he guides, he makes and then he completes. I'm sorry, he measures and then he guides and then he creates, then he makes complete. So like I said, the playbook is already written, the term is already fixed. But imagine if I got the playbook to my life right here sitting, okay? In year 2020, in 2020, you're gonna do this, 2052, this is gonna happen. That would just be an overwhelming amount of information, right? So to withhold that development is what I saw inside of this verse.
Praises be to Allah.
So it sounds like what you're saying is it's a mercy. The withholding is that mercy and that
Mhm.
beneficence he gives to us.
Right, absolutely.
Because you said he measures. So there's a fixed term when something should happen. And if he gives it to us out of season or out of term, then it could be to our own
Mhm.
detriment.
Right, and it could be overwhelming, yes.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And the beautiful thing about it is he not gonna do that.
Right.
That's right. That's
So
right.
that verse tells you, right?
That he won't.
That deals with maturity and that whole thing. I'm sorry, I did that. Yeah. Go ahead, go right ahead.
Mhm.
Right. And so you used another analogy as well, and you used like stretching and exercising as
Mhm.
we were talking about him being al-basit, the extender. And in that, and I hear you say this before on the Rostrum, where you talked about working out, lifting weights, right?
Mhm.
Using that analogy. And when we lift weights, we have to break the muscle down,
Right.
right? First of all, you got to exercise, right?
Mhm.
You got to have motion, as you talked about.
Mhm.
And once you lift those weights, then it's breaking down the muscle so that it can be strengthened, so that you can have more capacity, or Allah can extend you to even take on more weight or more trials and tribulations, right? Because we
Mhm.
have to qualify ourselves for other positions awaiting us, and it doesn't come without a struggle.
Right.
So I want you to give us an example in your personal life where these three attributes were used, where you were blessed by it, or you were able to bless other people because of these three attributes.
Okay, so we'll start with the first one, the withholder. I would say starting my business. You mentioned I was an entrepreneur, so I can go into that.
You was?
I am, I'm sorry.
I say you went out of business already?
No, sir.
Soon as I sat down, I went out of business.
Business is.
Oh, I'm a
Yeah.
nail tech here in the city of Houston, so yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. She's more than a nail tech. She's really a creative
Uh-huh.
with that in that industry, like unlike going to just the regular nail technicians.
Mm-hmm.
So you more than just a nail tech.
Right. Very much. Thank you. So starting my business out right after I graduated, cosmetology school to be qualified to even practice, in the city, pandemic started. And so I was working out of my house for a long time. My business stopped for a minute. And whenever everything finally started getting rolling, it looked like I was going to be able to get out of the house, but things just kept not working out. And so I'm like, dang, these leasing people crazy. I'm blaming everybody. But at the end of the day, the leasing people don't have anything over Allah. Nothing that is stopping me has anything over Allah. So I'm not really blaming the leasing people. I'm blaming Allah. So that's something that, and that's a lesson that I've taken forward as well. Just taking a step back whenever disappointment comes and really understanding who it is that is, withholding, or who it is that is putting something in my life. The next attribute would be the extender. So something that stretched me to full capacity. I'm gonna stay on the business. So yeah, it's a lot of different aspects in the business besides just, doing nails. So there's the behind the scenes, there's the social media, and that's something that I've always said, oh no, I don't do that. I don't do the Instagram thing. I've never been good at bookkeeping and all that stuff. But being in the business, I'm being stretched to different things. And so like the capacity of what I thought was my knowledge is growing. So yeah. And the last one, the reducer. How could I go into this? Let me go back to my notes if that's okay.
And you said there was like two qualifications, right?
Yeah.
Reduce when you are
Mhm.
not following Allah and his guidance.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You become abased, and then those who do follow him, they get the
Mhm.
elevation.
Right. Okay. So we'll go with that one. Those who do
So,
follow
so
get the
how,
elevation.
so how did
Mhm.
that show up in your life?
I would say standing on my faith, even in the face of adversity, because, I'm gonna just stay on the business because it's on my mind. So, I have a lot of people that'll come and they don't believe the same as I do. So, to kind of have a conversation with them, it's not difficult, but you have to find common ground. So that way, there's things that I can relate to with that person and they can relate to with me. But not being reduced to that level, but kind of lifting them to my level, so that we can have a produceful, conversation and business relationship in the future.
Good. When you're looking at this word, al-Khafif, this is why in study guide 15, and it's why we bring our books, because we got that study guide 15, right? Come on, put me back on the camera. There we go. Excellent. Right? So when you go to the characteristics of humility, and we know that humility is not an attribute of Allah, it's a characteristic. But al-Khafif is the attribute, because no one can make Allah submit. Allah makes all submit, right? So he's the reducer. So you're living in a world now, brothers and sisters, that inside of America is being made, is being reduced. Right? If you look at its economy, you look at its educational system, just you're looking at the fall of America, it's al-Khafif that's doing this. Right? And because they are being abased because of their arrogance, because of their self-righteousness, right? And so when we're looking at this term, we're seeing that it's Allah that's causing all of this around us. But what's happening with the believer? The believer is being increased. Right? The believer is being basit, is being extended. Right? Our lives are being extended, and that's just so in the midst of the reduction of this world. So Allah withholds sometimes so that we don't get caught up in this. Right? So I may want to think, like you said earlier, but the beautiful thing about it is Allah say, I'm gonna withhold it. Right? Because I want you to understand that I'm in control. And then Allah makes that connection, and we're studying these attributes. We're being raised up and being connected through the word salah, which is prayer. Prayer, one of the words for prayer means to connect. So we're being connected to his will. Elijah Muhammad said that he would just say a thing and to see if his will was one with Allah. And he would say it, and it happened, and he'd say it again. And the minister said, you know what? I do the same thing too. He said he tried it. So it showed that Allah's in control, but he's placing us in that beautiful position as well. What y'all thinking?
No, as you were saying that, we talk about the grace and the mercy of Allah, and his perfect example is when the Honorable Minister Lewis, when COVID came, right? You talked about the pandemic, and we had instructions, right? Go into your chambers, close your doors, right? He told us not to take the vaccines, right? Even if we had to lose our jobs, right? But we had to trust in him. And then what happened, right? Because we followed the instructions of Allah through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, our lives have been extended, right? And some people lost their lives because of disobedience from that instruction. But a lot of us, and it was a spiritual exercise for us as well. We had to really humble ourselves. We lost some things, we lost jobs, we lost family members, but in it, we were able to receive a bounty from our Lord.
Absolutely. And that's what's really beautiful, brothers and sisters. And this is why we are going over these attributes, because it's important to see how Allah is working in us and through us. And I think that 187, 2 and 3 is so profound. And when I in my own life can see what Allah is doing for me, through me, by his permission, then it puts me in a state where Allah says, Sabbihi Isma, glorify the name of who? Your Lord, your Rabb, your nourisher, your sustainer, your evolver unto perfection. And that whole process is taking place internally. So these attributes are being developed internally so that we can grow into what he says here, who creates them makes complete to who I really am.
Right.
Right? What's the completion of Brother Ali Mansard? What's the completion of him? Right? Because he said we're made complete, we're made complete, but yet what? Incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that incompletion now is being brought, into completion. Right? From a mental and spiritual perspective. Allah is raising us, and that's what's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
Praise
Yes.
be to
to
Allah.
Allah.
So a comment on Facebook, it says from Sister Waikiki Muhammad, she says, I love it when we can look back at whatever we've been through and see how much we have grown.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. It was so good. Somebody got a reply to it too.
I bear witness.
I bear witness. But that's really the beauty of it, sis. And I'm glad that you came on set today,
Praise be to Allah.
to-
Glad to be here.
to be with us,
Mm-hmm.
because this is so important,
Right.
as for us all in our own development, our own growth,
Mm-hmm.
to become one with Allah. So with these 99 attributes, what are we talking about when we say one with Allah?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing his names, but he placed those names in us. In, right? So we're not looking for the external, not looking externally, right? The external comes from the manifestation. So when you look up at the sun, right? When you look up at the sky and just the beauty of his creation, the grass and all of that, that came from within his own self.
Mm-hmm.
We're taught that his own mind fuels the sun.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's powerful.
That's right. He is greater than the sun.
Absolutely. And so we say Allahu Akbar.
That's right.
So that means that when we say that, that means it's not like, it's cool if I bring one person to the mosque, Allahu Akbar, but if I bring 10 to the mosque, Allahu Akbar, 20 and 30 and 40 and 50, because I'm designed to do big things. Biblical language said, greater works I should do, you should also do, because I what? Go on to the Father. So we got great works to do, company after company after company, right? Owning your own. Let me stop. We ain't gonna be here forever, because it is Monday night. We got FOI class. But
So yeah.
But go right ahead, please.
So praise be to Allah. Looking back on Sister Waikiti's comment, and you made a statement about the withholding. We have to, when we look back looking at the amazement of Allah, because if we knew what he was going to do in advance, it's like a big setup,
Mm-hmm.
right? The steps that he takes us through to put us in the positions and the places, but we can't really appreciate the greatness of Allah, but going through that measurement of time, that
Mhm.
fixed term, right?
Mhm.
And that struggle or that uphill road. So praise be to
Before we get out of here, we want to ask you another question.
Yes, sir.
So what connection, Sister Lynesia, did you see between all of these attributes? And then what one thought as you were studying that just kept coming up?
Patience,
Mhm.
I would say, because to withhold something, especially when you think you deserve it and you think you need it, it takes patience to really understand that it's not any other outside force but Allah that's holding it back from you. So patience, and like you said, maturity as well. And then when we go into the extender, that also takes patience to grow into the potential that you're being stretched into, and to feel that capacity. And then the last one, the reducer, that's patience too, because in the verse that I used for the reducer is referring to man being created out of the best, out of Allah.
Hassan Taqween,
Yes.
the most excellent mode of most excellent structure. Go right ahead.
Mhm. And so, but the verse right after that is speaking about how man will be rendered into the lowest of the low if he does not, use that potential and use what he is created for, and, make it useful in his life. So reaching or getting from the lowest of the low unto the potential of reflecting what we are created after, that also takes patience. So that's kind of the theme and the main concept that I noticed that kept repeating itself, was patience.
Praises be to Allah. Well, my dear sister, thank you.
Yes, sir.
uh,
Thank you for
coming
having
on.
me.
Yeah, we more than welcome. This is season 2. This is your second time on.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Second go round.
We're second go around, right?
Uh-huh.
Not second time on, because you
Right.
weren't here the 11 days, right? But you here in spirit, right?
Yes, sir.
Always.
Praises be to Allah.
So praise be to Allah. So Allah has blessed us with another day,
Praise
right?
be to
Ram-
Allah.
The 12th day of Ramadan and the 12th day of the 99, the 99 attributes of Allah, the most beautiful names. So thank you, Sister Lynesia. May Allah continue to bless you in your calling, in your mission, and being a student in the ministry class, and with your business, being able to propagate the faith and show Allah through your business.
And being a student lieutenant in the
Man,
Vanguard.
you got
Yes.
many hats.
Many hats.
So, but that's the average MGT, right, brother?
Yeah, and FOI too. I ain't no MGT, I ain't no Vanguard, but
Yes, you are. You at the
Well, no,
forefront.
I'm
You
at the forefront.
One of the
I'm
foremost.
come on now, come on, come on. Well, praises be to Allah. I'm so excited, brothers and sisters. So again, we thank you, my
Yes,
dear
sir. Praise
sister,
be
for
to Allah.
for being on the show with us today. So that concludes our show today. But before you click that leave button, we have a few announcements for you.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so Ramadan Mubarak, Fasting in Islam, the month of Ramadan and beyond, a learner's guide. Pre-order your book now. All of your Ramadan questions answered. You can get it paperback and ebook. As Brother Aleem always says, www.islamicsciences.noi.org. This has been compiled by our own Nation of Islam student Imam, Brother Sultan Rahman Muhammad. And you can get your 2023 Ramadan Quranic Reading Journal and NOI History. Sister Leah, we want you to show this book. Look, we got it in paperback form. Yeah, it is beautiful. Show how thick it is. Yeah.
So even though it's dated Ramadan 2023, but you can't say point number 12 is ever dated.
Oh, never.
Right? And the attributes of Allah are in this book as well. So go right back to the slide, please.
Yes, so that's 2023, right? The theme for this year is point number 12 in the theology of the Nation of Islam. But I encourage you to go back and get all of the previous Ramadan journal books because it has so much information to edify your study. So praise be to Allah. You can get it at researchminister.com. That again is researchminister.com. Download and you can get the physical copy. And tomorrow, day what? 13.
13, that's right. I put up a 2, but y'all couldn't see it. So I'm glad y'all didn't see me put up a 2, 3.
Yes, sir. It's our very own Southwest Regional Student Captain of the Nation of Islam. That is none other than our brother, Stephen Ishaq Muhammad, for episode number 13. And you can watch it same time, same place on Mosque number 45 Facebook page. You can get the replay on our YouTube channel. We ask you to follow us on Facebook at the 99 TMBN, the most beautiful names, on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. So without further, anything else, brother?
No, that's it.
All right. So praise be to Allah. So inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow. So assalamu alaikum and
Ramadan Mubarak.